seen everything on the internet from their cowlings are great to their cowlings are the worst. And sometimes people just don't understand composites. And I found that the less they know, the more they struggle with it. So, you know, there's YouTube videos on how to do your own layups and all that kind of stuff. But the reality is, these are done in a mold. We trim to a mold, and they're long. And so we're going to leave you material to work with, and you're going to install it to your firewall, your boot cowl, your prop, your installation, right? So the first thing we do when we get a set of cowlings out, I'm going to go through. Okay, anybody know the hazard of working with carbon fiber?
Yeah, it hurts.
The dust. It goes in your lungs, never comes out. So you're always going to use a ventilated area. A couple things we do, we'll actually grind with a fan over here, blowing all the dust away from you for demonstration purposes. The lovely Brent. No. We talked about this. We're going to use a vacuum next to my cutting wheel. That's going to help extract the dust away from me breathing it in the working area and that sort of thing. If you just put a straight edge across the front here, these don't line up, okay? So what I do want to do is create a straight edge between this center, what I call the spinner bowl, okay? So I'm going to go through and set that up to where these two lines are straight and they intersect nicely. These lines I'm going to clean up from what our guys took out of the mold. I'm going to just block sand that, make that nice and pretty. These tabs do need to nest inside of the top cowling. If I just try and put them together right now, this cowling, the top cowling, actually has a round shape that goes past the tangent. So I need to kind of creep this back up to the tangent where they'll actually come together. If you have something to take notes with, the dimension between the inside top and the inside bottom of the two inlets, the air inlets, 3 5/8 inch. That's perfect. If you can get to 3 5/8 inches, they will just fall together. And we've had guys like, I'm not pretty comfortable at 3 3/4. And they'll fight it, they'll fight it, they'll fight it, they'll take a little more off, they'll get to that 3 5/8, and you wouldn't think that little bit would make a difference, and also the cowlings just come together. So if you ever email me and say, I'm having a hard time getting these together, I'm going to be like 3 5/8, go get it and come back and talk to me.
What is measured 3 5/8? What dimension is that?
If these are together, the inside dimension.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. Okay. But the first thing to do is just kind of get everything cleaned up, trued up. These tabs are too far forward, so you're going to end up taking about an 1/8, maybe a little stronger than that. Take them back so that they're not interfering with this front piece here. If you have any tension on those tabs to the front, one of them is going to crack. You'll either crack out this corner or this bottom corner. So you need to make sure that they nest together nicely. You need to make sure that everything just kind of fits and nothing's binding. Okay. Anytime you're doing carbon, a silver Sharpie is your friend. Can't believe you did that, Brent. Dirty. Almost need a camera up above me so you can see what I'm doing. We use anything from a wood block to an aluminum channel, anything that you can use some of the self-adhesive paper. I like the 80 grit paper for just block sanding, rough cutting. And then we'll move, when we do body work and things like that, we'll move to finer papers like 220, 320, things like that. Okay. My bottom. All right. Has anyone seen my videos?
Yes.
Yeah.
What do I love in a Dremel? Yeah, tungsten, right? So this is actually a Dremel cutter. Works beautifully on carbon. will tend to wear out faster on carbon fiber. Any of your cutters, sanding paper, the carbon fiber is really brutal on tools. So make sure it's not something you love, or at least something you replace. But I start off with this tungsten carbide cutter. There you go. Remember, don't say whoops. Thank you. Okay, we'll get to it. So here we have these joggles around the sides. Now I want to make those joggles match basically where we have one continuous line from what I just created, and then it wraps around the edge. Now I can start fitting this to that line. That make sense? Let's fire that back up. I'll do it with this. Whoops. So this is almost like sculpting at this point. You know, we've got a figure, we got a shape, and now I'm just trying to make it look like what I want it to look like. So, you know, in that case, I'm just kind of grinding around the corner, I'm kind of fitting around the corner, drawing a line with the little cutter, and make it work. What's that? Yeah, sounds good. Somebody else will have to be my lovely assistant. Sometimes when creating a joggle, paper wrapped around two sides, help, you know, especially something this sharp, helps kind of get into the corner and create a little line there.
Or someone's been really trying to get a hold of you.
That's the office phone that rings on my
day.
phone, yeah. Wait, are you suggesting I'm not popular?
No, I didn't say that.
Somebody calling and asking a question about how long the cow.
Yeah.
I wish I were there. That's the number. Yeah. What was that dimension he gave me? Okay, so the other thing we will often do, we've kind of got it pretty good on the mold, but a lot of times you'll end up taking this front lip back, you know, another 1/4 inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch, depending on how this front starts coming together. But
Now, when you laid that straight edge across and marked it with your silver Sharpie, I didn't see you position that up and down. Were you just trying to get a parallel edge, or were you trying to line it up with the cowl lip?
So, you see where these joggle back here?
Yeah.
Kind of using those as my guide.
Oh, there's something else there, I guess. Okay. Yeah, and it
so you kind of see
recessed.
this line runs back here.
I see.
I just kind of use that. I went a little beyond that so I could
Okay.
clean this line up.
All right.
These are brand new molds. Like I said, on the tour, we just did our new molds. And I've spent a ton of time getting these joggles all really dialed. But you'll still end up with funny little edges from the layup when that happens. So, you know, you still got to clean them up a little bit. I usually go past them, give myself something to work with, plus bodywood layer. Okay, so now we'll kind of get an idea of how things go together now. Okay, who's going to be my lovely assistant? Gap there. So we got a good gap happening there. Okay. So one of the things I'll do We got that right? Leave you hanging? Sorry. Come across, basically match that up with the line I just created down below. Okay, the other thing I'm going to do.
I think it's a better van of wine.
Hey, very helpful. You weren't even around, bro.
I think it's a better van of wine.
Okay.
So now you just mark it.
Okay.
Just kind of give myself a matching line to the line I created down here, okay? The other thing, a little ahead of myself, but not too much. People get really apprehensive about carbon or any composites really. They don't want to screw up. They don't want to take it too far. It's a thing I can tell you, it can be fixed. It can actually add, every time it can be fixed. I can come in here. I'll fix it.
It's
I'll
easy.
fix it, right?
And I would say carbon is easier than fiberglass. Like, people get more scared about the carbon because it's, oh, carbon, oh no. No, that's actually easier.
So I'm going to come in. Sold. You already have it.
Got it. I'll send it to you.
So we actually have mold lines in here. Don't follow them, okay? Except for up here. We can actually give ourselves probably 1/8 of an inch or so beyond the scribe line, is what that's called. I need more cowbell. Okay, so what have I done?
Put a gas in it.
I've never seen anybody gasp quite like that before. So here, I've relieved, and now I can start helping this all line up. I know I've got to take some off here because my trim line, like I said, about 1/8 of an inch down from it, so I can kind of creep up to it, eke up to it. Sorry.
1/8 of an inch down from the slight mark that's already in the cowling mold there. Okay,
And it's a pretty subtle mark.
I can see it from here. Yeah.
Polytack.
Yeah, put it back together real quick. It dries fast.
Sure. Hysol's my favorite adhesive.
It dries too slow.
There we go. So yeah, the manual will show you exactly doing this sort of thing here. And then we're just going to continue to nest. See how things come together. So where I got ahead of myself with making that mark is a tape measure. Is there a yellow tape measure? No. Okay. Yeah, you got it? exactly the same. Yeah, just as far as dimensionally and everything, it's all gonna be out of the same mold. It's gonna be the same. Okay, Brent, if you would be so kind to hold. Okay, so if I pull these together, what's my magic dimension?
3 5/8.
Good. Just gonna ingrain it in you. Okay, so I'm sitting at 4 1/8 there, 4 1/2 there. So now, I can measure up here. What did I say that was? 4 1/2. 4 1/2. Okay.
So how much you take off there?
7/8. Oh. Yeah, that'll work.
So your reference is the joggle, like the joggle slide you don't want to keep cutting down, but only get a flat lip.
I'm only cutting the top. Yeah, now my bottom cowling is fixed. I'm not taking any more off of that. Okay, 4 1/8. And when I'm measuring here, I'm measuring off the bottom cowl to know how much to take off the top. Makes sense?
And these are for all the cowlings, depending, no matter what engine.
Yeah, so what we're gonna do, so let me explain this a little better. What we're gonna do is get this fit to where we know it fits properly. I don't care about the sides yet. I don't care about the back yet, where it meets the boot cowl or anything else. If I can get this front together and pinned, then I can put it on the airplane, figure out where it's positioned according to the spinner back plate. Now I've got that reference, now I can start fitting to the boot. And the last thing I'm gonna do is trim down this side once I know everything is where it should be front to back, up and down. Then the top will just go around and conform. Nice and easy. Hopefully that makes sense. To do this every day, I actually use a 4-inch cutoff wheel on a Makita grinder. And I'll come in and just make it real fast. So, but this is a little more controllable, a little slower, just kind of gives you time to process and watch. Okay, time to look like a fool or a total stud. Oh, I can do math, okay. Okay, so this one could probably go a little more. I don't know. I'm gonna leave it. Yeah. You know, and the thing to remember is it doesn't have to be the first shot. You know, the first cut, the first thing you do doesn't have to be nailed. You can always come back, creep up on it a little more, you know, make it fit. You've got fillers, you've got epoxy, you've got ways to repair it.
Yeah, I was thinking from 1,000 miles away.
There are some, yeah. All right. I need someone who can visually look at this and tell me what I got going on. Who wants to be a volunteer? You're up. Okay. What do I have there?
Yeah?
Oh, whoops. How big? Quarter? 3/16 maybe?
3/16.
What do we have over there?
Too much overlap.
Overlap, okay? So now this gets real easy. This side is already a little fat, right? Kind of talked about that. It's on the bubble, so I might take that in just a little more to close up that gap. But I'm also gonna fill this later. I want these to be backed with a pretty good amount of thickened resin. So I want to be able to pack this in here. That allows me to kind of take up some of that void too and really get a nice fit in there. What I've done before, bonded those two back together and filled them entirely. And you go through with a X-Acto razor saw or even a hacksaw blade and just run that down through there. That'll give you a perfect cut right through all that filler, right? And all of a sudden your line just turns into this perfect little line that everybody looks at and goes, wow, how'd you do that? Well, I bonded it together and cut it back apart, right? So that would work as well.
So there's too big of a gap right now on that side because you cut a little farther than you meant to?
Yeah, just kind of winging it,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
But I'm actually gonna close that up. I'm gonna take a little more off this middle to kind of pull the cowling together. This distance, instead of 3 5/8, was closer to 3 3/4. So
Okay.
I'm gonna, oh, okay, right there. Okay. So I'll just continue to work that down a little bit by taking some off
And you
of
can see
here.
on this side.
It's all over. Yeah, okay. And that side's easy because then I can just mark it.
Okay, so then you're fixing this here gap too, right?
Yeah, so I'll probably clean up this joggle just a little more.
Yeah.
And I'll take a little bit off this side. And that'll help bring that down.
Always trimming on
Always
the
the
top,
top.
not the bottom.
Yep. I'm gonna clean that joggle a little bit on the bottom, but I'm not gonna take any material away or shortening that. So I'll just do it.
Yeah.
So something I want to point out regarding composites. This is all done with epoxy, so you can use all kinds of different resins with carbon specifically. But because we've done this out of epoxy, you can only bond with epoxy. So if you come in to fill this, if you come in to make a repair or anything, it has to be done with epoxy resin. Right? If you do this with vinyl ester, it's just going to bust out. It'll be a matter of time. This is vinyl ester, so you can use vinyl ester or epoxy. We still prefer epoxy for that kind of, filling or layering up or making an additional repair later. A secondary bond will always be better with epoxy. So you can use vinyl ester here, only epoxy here. Okay?
What particular kind of epoxy? I think of epoxy, you just mean a two-part adhesive.
Like
Like Hysol
yeah, like
or no?
I love Hysol for what it is and the wings and
Yeah.
the structural adhesive that it is. I don't love it when it comes to body working, sanding, and that sort of thing. It kind of gets it stays flexible, so it's kind of rubbery. When you go to sand it, as soon as you start heating it up, it just kind of softens. So I always prefer an actual epoxy resin. You can use a laminating resin. You can use some kits you can buy. They're like boat repair kits. Will come with cloth and resin in it. Make sure it's epoxy, not vinyl ester, because there's both. But the West Systems is usually the most readily available, and you can order gallons and quarts of that off of aircraft spruce and that sort of thing. So that's a good place to kind of start. And basically they have a pump system where you give one pump of that, and it measures it out to where you have the exact ratio. Epoxy is very specific to having the right quantities mixed together. To that point, we use the polyfiber Super-Fil as our filler when we're doing body work and filling holes or voids or anything like that, because it's an epoxy-based filler. Okay? Versus a lot of other stuff we get from the body shops will be a polyester filler, a polyester putty. Now this works great once you've got your primer on. You can come back and you can do some soft filling or some feathering, and that'll work great for that. It dries quick, it sets off really quick, so you can sand it. It powders nicely, and the edge feathers better than the Super-Fil. But when you're doing your initial fills, I would use the Super-Fil.
So around that door frame, the blue, is that the Super-Fil?
It's both. So we start with the Super-Fil because it bonds really well and it's strong, but when we come back to do just a light feather, we want the EverCoat, is the polyester filler, is better feathering.
So that's the blue.
They're both blue. So light blue versus medium blue basically is what you're going to see the difference. So, yeah, we'll right here you can see that that's almost like a sky blue. This gets real baby blue on the outside. So the lighter blue is going to be the polyester filler.
What's the thickness of the carbon fiber need? Like normally, like if you were to buy extra carbon fiber to bond or less round, what would you get?
Yeah, so we basically plan about a 1/16 of an inch per layer carbon or fiberglass. That's usually what they yield, is about a 1/16 of an inch. Some of that depends on how much resin you have in, how much you leave in. You know, again, a vacuum type system, you're going to have a perfect 50-50 ratio of cloth and resin. Hand layups, you're typically going to get more of that behind, unless you really work to scrape it out, which is kind of what we do. So you'll look at the cloth and you'll actually see the cloth pattern very well on the inside because we're scraping that excess resin out. Yeah, 16th is pretty typical.
Is that's the combined thickness? Is there a weight or type trail? Is there a lightweight, heavyweight, something pound?
Yeah, so basically you're going to have your different ounce weight of cloth. Typically it will hold whatever its weight is, it's going to hold that in resin. So if you have a 5 ounce cloth, it's going to hold 5 ounces of resin.
Is that what you're leading for? So like what weight of cloth would you use for something like this?
So all of our carbon is 528, or we call it 6 ounce carbon. It is a 3K, which means every strand of carbon we have. So I was able to take one of those toes out and break it apart. There's 3,000 strands of carbon in it. So, and does anybody know what carbon is? It's carbon. Good. It's actually burnt nylon. I didn't know that until just a couple years ago. Incredibly strong through that whole process. So we close that up a little more. We need to close this one a little more.
You're not wanting to cut that though.
Yeah, so this line looks really good. I would just continue to take a little more off that. If anybody wants to come up and look, feel free to come up and look.
We're no longer overlapping here. We've done all the work over there on the top.
You can see how this shape is just starting to come together, whereas before this really hooked. And I've seen people leave that hooked, and this is gapped too far. And so I'm just going to continue sneaking up now on this side. Close this up. Take a little off. Happy with that line. Pretty happy with that line. We'll keep taking off the top there. Just kind of get our gap.
The outside corner in your new molds fits much better.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm just looking for about where it intersects the radius up here. Okay. So we're still a little strong.
You're right.
Probably closer to
Breathing on your
11/16. So, yeah, and I've had some people measure all the way to the top of the radius. So that's too far. You're really just looking for this inside edge right here where it all kind of intersects. Yeah. So we can take a little more off that safely. Pull all that together. Every time. Every time. Just make sure it works. I think that one's 60. Again, here it's rough. I'm sculpting. I'm really kind of pulling everything together quickly. Oh yeah. Okay, snap fast. Literally just came together. I mean, it just, like I said, when you get that dimension right, it just falls together.
Okay, then you're taking your measurement from here to there.
Down to that corner, yeah. Just, I mean, once you get it, it just kind of fits.
After your 45th cowl, it just kind of.
It just works. okay?
You guys sell practice cowls?
We sure do.
Same price as the
Same price as the other one.
It's cost double.
We've been known to send out a couple extra cowlings, yeah. Okay, would you mind throwing me that yellow tape right there? Thank you. All right, the easiest way to fix my mistake. Because I wasn't paying attention, I ground through that. If you simply tape some tape to the outside, okay?
That's it. Paint over it.
Paint over it. Done. You know?
And then if you want to check it later on, you just take the tape off. Go, yep, it's still there.
Still there, yeah. Okay, so we got a tape basically on the outside to give us our shape. So that's acting like a mold, okay, a form. And I'm going to come in from the inside, and I'm just going to fill that with some epoxy. And I'm going to put a little thin layer of cloth over the top of that to kind of hold it all in place, reinforce it, so it doesn't go anywhere, okay? You want about, ideally, an inch each direction of material. So in that case, I'd cut a 2" by 2" square, stick it on there with some epoxy. It will never go anywhere. It's as good as new, good as original.
That epoxy will work to the tape and will be smooth on the outside?
Correct. Yeah, so if you let that set up and fully cure, then you can come off later, take the tape, and you'll have a smooth edge, or roughly smooth, and you can just take some 220 grit paper over the top of that, blend it in, and you may not even have to fill it with any filler. A lot of times you can just go right over the top of that. Right? Yeah. The important thing when you're doing a secondary bond like that, you want to abrade what's already cured inside. So you want to take that, rough it up real well, some 80 grit paper, give some teeth for that epoxy to kind of bite into. Don't go crazy, because we only have 2 layers of carbon. You don't want to compromise that carbon strength by jumping in and starting to cut those toes. So that you want to be careful there. Okay. So from this point, like I said, I don't have it set up, so I apologize, but hopefully this has taken away some of the anxiety of doing cowlings. But we're going to take these now, and you can tape them together. You can pin these with the plecos to the bottom, and just get that front nested together. And then we're going to put them up to, assuming our boot cowl's already on, we're just going to put them up here, and then establish where our spinner is. And you can locate that. You can use a piece of wood to gap it, give you a 1/4 inch gap or 3/8 gap, whatever you're looking for there. And then basically, I guess I can give you our cheat code. We use a disc, an aluminum disc, in place of a spinner. And we actually bolt that to the flange of the engine, and it's got 2 holes in it that we actually pleco through and hold our cowling in place. And then we just have to kind of push the bottom up to meet the boot, and then we locate and
Which half do you do first?
we set the bottom first. Get that all located. Have you here? You're really using the top nose as well, so you know where that spinner goes, right? So you're gonna set it up to where the top is in line with the top of the spinner.
But you're doing that with the engine there.
Yes. Have to.
So on the bottom, I mean, you don't have cutouts yet for exhaust and stuff like that. So what do you?
You sure could. So we put these. Thank you for bringing that up. We have people that come in and like, oh, I'm going to start prepping my cowlings. They come in and they sand off these marks for the exhaust. Okay, this is a good mark location for the 916, 912, and the 915s. So any of those will give you a location for the exhaust. So you could roughly cut that, leave it a little undersized, and it will allow you to come over the exhaust to get things kind of in place. And a lot of people get hung up about, no, I don't want to make it too big. It needs to be big. You literally need 2 knuckles distance around that entire exhaust pipe. Otherwise, when it shuts down and starts up, it's going to vibrate, move, you'll end up breaking exhaust because it's going to hit against the carbon, especially, won't yield. So it'll hit the exhaust stinger and it'll break your exhaust. So give it room to move. Okay. Questions? Concerns?
I see a lot of cowling screws over time deteriorate and kind of wear down. Is there anything to do to prevent that from happening, or do you repair after it happens?
So this is going to sound a little snobby, but do a good job to begin with. And by that I just mean don't let your drill auger holes out and things like that. All the holes we do are 40s to start with, and then we open them up as we need. So we start with 40s and 40 plecos, so that if they get opened up, we're not opening up our 30s, or we're not opening up our 1/4-inch holes that we need for the Camlocks, things like that. So, you know, we'll use 40 holes all the way down the joggle, all the way down the top cowl. We'll come back later, use that as a guide, and say, okay, there's our 1/4-inch hole here, there's our 1/2-inch hole here for the Camlock. When you drill for the Camlocks, just nice little 40 holes and little countersink, you know, just delicate work. And if you get them set right, if you get the Camlocks set right, the cowling's riding on the Camlock, you know, not on the actual composite. Make sense?
And the Scribe lines for all the cuts, like your intercooler on the top and your air box on the side.
There are no scribes for the side. That's all done by measurement. So there's references in the manual for how those should measure out. The NACA here is close, but I would cut the inside of it by about an inch and then work my way out, because every installation is a little different. You know, you can place your radiator 1/2 inch this way. You know, it can be crooked. It could be a lot of things, and so I always fit the NACA to the radiator and then come back and open that up to my NACA.
Same on the 912.
Yeah, the 912 benefits from the side NACA. It's not included in the firewall forward kit, at least not today. But it installs kind of behind the head, so the NACA would sit there. That would be the open spot. The box sits back here and houses a filter. That filter then goes up to the air box via a scat tube. And it's you know, with the turbo engines, we're looking to keep that air as cool as possible. Well, the 912 benefits from that too. It just doesn't seem to be as critical on that install, but it does work. Yep. Yeah, we have a side NACA kit, that's called. And like I said, that would be the filter, that would be the scat, the adapter, and the actual part install. My airplane and John's Speedster, we did a little different, where we actually cut that box in 3/4, I guess. So we left just the NACA mounted here, and then the 4 Camlocks, we can pull the back of that box off so that the sensor, the filter, the scat, everything stays with the engine. Now we can drop the cowling and take just the cowling away instead of having to disconnect all that every time you move the cowlings. Some people don't like the looks of the 4 Camlocks. I got over it real quick. First few times I pulled the cowling, I was like, oh, that's convenient. So it's a little more work to do it that way. Yeah, we could. Yeah, if somebody wants to see how that's done, we can show you that on the Speedster. You just pull the top cowling. But it's literally just as simple as splitting that cowling, and then instead of bonding the back half on, you just bond the front portion. That way you can still do all the body work up here. You know, you're doing the body work, paint and everything. It's actually easier to paint. But then that's just left in place. So it's good. Yep, take a look at that. Let's see. We covered
clearances for like paint, like gaps. It seems like what between the 2 cowl pieces, how much of a gap are you?
So an 1/8 inch sounds like a ridiculous amount. By the time you end up primer, paint, colors, clear coat, it ends up closing that gap quite a bit. It's harder to take off later. So I give myself an 1/8 or just a shy 1/8, and then you know, depending on your scheme, your experience spraying, you know, you may plan for more paint if you're not experienced painting. You're probably going to lay too much paint on, so give yourself a little extra to work with.
You're talking about the gap right there where they meet. How much?
The 2 seams.
Okay. Yeah.
Reinforcing with resin, like you said, you cut with the Hysol board. Do you do any reinforcing without the intent of cutting in those areas?
Yeah, so when I fill this front section here, when I fill these with resin, I will take a 5-ounce cloth, or just a light cloth, and put that in. Just because the cowl will flex. And so if you don't have that in place, there's a good chance that's going to crack out, and then you're going to start cussing. We don't want that. So it's just longevity. It's thinking down the road. It's protecting yourself from that happening later. We've got some out there that never got that, and we're fine. You know, they never came apart.
Do you on the fiberglass as well?
Yeah. It's just good to have hard points up here. Just kind of keeps everything nice and tight. Kind of takes away some of that flexibility.
All the stuff you've been talking about, are they in the manual? That's why I'm
So, you know, again, going back to the cheat codes Mike was talking about, I've given you some cheat codes as far as how to fit this. Those are the manual, but I've given you some extra details that will help kind of make that a little easier. That 3 5/8 is game changer. You know, once you know that, it's like, okay, you know, if you're sitting at 4 inches, you know you can safely bring everything together and you don't have to worry about going too far and, you know, creep up on it a little more aggressively.
When you're drilling for the Camlocks, is there flex between the two pieces, and is there a trick to getting that to align really well?
Yeah, there can be. So basically your bottom is going to be in. We've got that pretty well locked in place now. And then you're going to bring this down and overlap it. So with an overlap, it's going to kind of mess with your spacing a little bit.
Right.
But if anything, you're going to be tight. So then you're going to, at that point, you would want to actually, so that's before you would drill for Camlock. So you would want to get that line set, this one to this one, get your gap set that you're going to do.
So you paint before you.
No, sorry. Maybe I don't understand your question.
So getting the two pieces aligned just right as you're drilling, especially if it's flexing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, so don't let it flex.
Tape the two halves, or what?
Yeah, once you kind of bring it down together, especially the carbon, it really holds its shape well. And so when you start pushing light pressure, you know, if you really go for it, you're gonna push it in and you're holding it out. So just push against it real light, high speed, let it kind of just work its way through and do its thing.
I see that aluminum Brent wing to align
The spinner?
yeah, on the
What about it?
spinner. We see that piece you made.
Yeah. Kind of hog this out where I can still see those front lines of the cowling.
Did that come in our kit?
No, you wish. That's a good idea, actually. So yeah, this just gives us the ability, there you go. This gives us the ability to kind of inspect our lines here, just we cleared those out. And these are the holes we go through. Kind of keep everything together, but yeah, you just line that up right at the top of the cowling there.
On the inside.
That would be on the outside. So it would sit just like this. But like I said, you want to space it, and you have to figure out every prop install is different, every engine is going to be different potentially. So you want to make sure that you have your gap set for the spinner. You don't want to be touching it.
So you do that, you get that all set up before you.
So for instance, we've got spacers
Okay.
already determining our offset for our spinner for the 912 installation.
And you do that, you set that before you drill it.
You have a flatbed scanner? Have a flatbed scanner?
Yeah, the biggest reason we don't sell this or include it in the kit, every installation is going to be different. If somebody doesn't use it right, we're going to get a phone call. So it's like you come up with your own, you have a concept, you come up with your own solution. And so our spinner we use here is 11.3. I think so. I think you made one.
So that is the same spinner that you said.
Yeah, so that'd be the Whirlwind, the MT, the Airmaster would all be 11.3, 11.27.
That gap around the
Okay.
one of the
Does that help?
Judging.
You all clap for Mike. You better clap for me. Come on, come on. Thank you. Oh, you're fabulous. Please.
That's a fiberglass?
This is the fiberglass. Yes.
What airplane? What comes with carbon fiber? What comes?
So, standard firewall forward is going to have the fiberglass in it. $1,850 in their upgrades to the carbon. And we do use a UV gel coat. Just had that conversation with somebody on Facebook. We use a UV gel coat here, so you can actually leave the carbon exposed and it won't break down because it's got UV in there. A lot of guys are going through and clear coating it anyway, and that clear coat should have a UV in it. So yeah, we do our best to get all the air out of it. We do our best to keep weave straight and all that stuff, but it's not a decal either. It's real carbon, so you'll get weave wave and you'll get seams in it and that kind of stuff, and we'll just have to work your scheme around that.
You don't need to clear coat it, you're saying? You could actually just polish this or something?
Yeah, it's kind of the finish off the mold is a little dull, so I would clear coat it just because I'm OCD like that. But Yeah, you could technically leave this out in the sun and it won't break down the resin. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, well, thanks for listening, and hopefully that was helpful.